Hi, my name is Michael Walshe. I'm the Chief Executive of Voltaic Strategic Resources. We are a minerals exploration company listed on the ASX. Our ticker is VSR, and we're predominantly focused on lithium and rare earth element exploration right now. We've got early stage projects in Western Australia and Nevada, and our primary focus since listing last October has been on our West Australian assets located in the Gascoigne region, which is one of the most active and exciting hotspots in the country right now. We listed last October at 2 cents, and we've already gone from early stage greenfields prospects to drilling at 2 separate projects. So we don't mess around, and we've got a very experienced management team, strong skill set in geology, processing, metallurgy, and capital markets. And yeah, all of us are kind of laser focused on discovery.
Laser focused, Michael. Welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us. New story. You're not entirely new to me. You are a member of on the app. We have spoken before, but we've not spoken about this project before. So I'm kind of keen to get people to understand who you are and what you're doing. So let's start with that. Who are you? And then tell us about the team that you've kind of built around you.
Sure, yeah. So I'm a chemical engineer by training. I also have an MBA in finance. I've been involved in the kind of minerals metallurgy space for about 15 years. Before I joined the team that formed Voltaic, I spent 10 years with a company called Metso Outotec. They're the world's largest minerals processing technology company. There I held various technical and senior management positions, including running the minerals mining division for Asia Pacific for a few years, where I had a large team and P&L kind of responsibility. During that time, I had a lot of technical and commercial experience with the majority of producing and developing projects in Asia and Australia, including pretty much all of the recent lithium and rare earth development or producing projects in Australia and several nickel, copper, gold projects throughout Asia. And that kind of experience included getting involved with test work, reviewing flow sheets, equipment selections in the study phases, and then attending site for commissioning, optimization, or upgrades thereafter, and often intimately getting involved with understanding the process if we were offering performance guarantees. And I suppose getting to witness that amount of producing projects in the flesh has been really beneficial for me from a professional point of view, because it's quite challenging to get onto an operating site, and most people wouldn't get that opportunity. So yeah, getting to see that amount of producing projects has been, I suppose, really beneficial. And there was also a non-technical component to the job as well. We were often assisting developers with financial, like export credit financing from the Finnish government, and that kind of opened my eyes to like offtake agreements and assisting the banks with their due diligence, because they wanted to de-risk certain flow sheets as much as possible, and that's where they kind of got us as the independent expert to give them that kind of confidence that the equipment selected is going to do what it says on the tin. So yeah, look, it was pretty much a job for life. Safe, secure, well-paid, senior management, all that kind of stuff, and decided to leave that to set up and list Voltaic, and yeah, haven't looked back since.
Working in a big kind of institutional environment, it's kind of like you say, it's nice, safe, it's a job for life. That someone takes care of the money. Running a public company is very, very different. So let's get on to who around you supporting you in terms of, because this is your first public role, is that right?
That's right, yeah.
Okay, so you're going to need that team around you. So who have you got?
Yeah, look, we've got a really experienced team. So the 2 founders, the guys that kind of got me into the company, John Hannaford, David Izzard. John Hannaford, he's a very seasoned operator in the capital market space. He's been on the board of several ASX companies. He's also listed several companies, including Core Lithium, for example. So yeah, very seasoned operator, very well connected, over 30 years experience. And then there's David Izzard. He's like a mining entrepreneur. He's had several successful businesses in the past, mainly in the mining services business space, and he's also now got several other companies that he's founded more recently. And from a geological perspective, our technical director is Lachlan Reynolds. He's currently managing director at Mount Monger Critical Metals. They're an early stage explorer as well, with some assets in Canada and West Australia. And our exploration manager, Claudio Sheriff, he's a very seasoned operator in terms of geology. He can claim 2 rare earth element discoveries to his name. Browns Range Northern Minerals heavy rare earth discovery about 15 years ago, and more recently Azra Minerals Ytria rare earth and scandium discovery as well. And then we've got a very seasoned CFO in Simon Adams. So he's been on several ASX. He's been the CFO for several ASX companies as well. So really experienced team across the board. We've got all the skill sets really that we need to progress a company like ours forward.
Okay, so you've also got a portfolio of assets. You talk about the projects in the Gascoigne region. You've also got some in the Macuthra region and over in Nevada as well. So you talk about being laser focused. It's a big portfolio. Tell us a little bit more about what exactly you're focused on trying to deliver to the market.
Yeah, so as you say, like we have a wide portfolio. That was the kind of logic when we were putting the assets originally to get listed basically and have some optionality. We wanted a lot of exposure to battery metals, so nickel, copper, cobalt, lithium, and rare earths, and also some gold because there's always a place in a portfolio for a bit of gold, and we pretty much have all of that across all of the projects. But we really decided to focus only on the lithium and rare earth story in the Gascoigne, and we haven't really progressed any of the other projects yet. So the Nevada nickel cobalt project, that's for a later date. So is the Meekatharra gold and base metal prospects. And all of our attentions over the last 9 months has been on our Paddyswell rare earth project and our T3 lithium project, mainly because of the activity in the area around us, the kind of neurology, the success and the neurology that other peers are having in the area. And it was it made sense for us because both projects are actually relatively close by as well, so that when we're exploring one, we could spend a couple of weeks at one and then just go to the other project. So it's quite efficient in terms of logistics. And yeah, the main messages were lithium and rare earth story right now, Paddyswell and T3, basically.
Okay, well let's talk about that because again, as a small company, you just launched, you've raised a bit of money, you've got to be laser focused, like you say. I always appreciate companies that know how to allocate capital efficiently. But lithium project, tell me about the thought process about, well, let's focus on lithium and rare earths, because it kind of feels like lithium. Have you kind of missed the boat there, or do you think your timing's exemplary?
No, I think there's still huge froth in the market here for lithium, and like basically our recent capital raise is a testament to that. Basically, yeah, we put out some really interesting preliminary early drill results where we hit these really wide pegmatites, and essentially that caused quite a significant share price appreciation. And we seized the day, as it were, and we did a capital raise. So we topped up our coffers with $7 million, and we originally planned for 5 million, and we had so much interest, in particular from institutions and more like funds that we didn't have on the register previously. So we seized that day. We raised at 5 cents, $7.1 million, and yeah, we now have almost $10 million in the kitty to progress both the lithium project and the rare earth project.
So carpe diem. Just focus on the lithium bit first. There's got to kind of be a strategy to this, because not all companies get into production. You're in the region with lots of other kind of successful plays there at the moment. How in your head are you kind of picturing building this story up, but also the potential of the asset up? What's the end game? Because
of my processing background, I would love to be an actual developer. If I that's. It might be pie in the sky, but that's my ultimate ambition. I was there for the early days of Pilbara Minerals, and saw how that transitioned through all that pain that they got through to where they are now, like one of the leading spodumene producers in the world. So that's my personal dream, but may never happen. But ultimately, we've got over 300 targets now at our lithium project, 300 individual pegmatites, which is quite huge, basically. We've got a neighbor called Delta Lithium. They bought their project for $25 million late last year, and they're drilling almost 100,000 meters into the project. So they have obviously seen the scale potential of this area. We believe we're on the same geological system as they are. And if you look at, based on pure land area, we've got less area than them. But if you do the Goldilocks area calculation, which is the prospective area where you're likely to find LCT, lithium, cesium, tantalum, we've got, we believe, an equal amount of this prospective corridor to them. So even though they're a 300 million market cap company right now, and we're the minnow, I think we could potentially get to their valuation if we keep pressing hard and test all of these targets that we have.
Right, you keep raising this money and drilling, absolutely, but you've got to do it efficiently, always. So let's just take a little back step there, trying to explain the kind of significance of pegmatites. You talked about the other company talking about spodumene. You're not there yet. So what have you got to do? And what are these pegmatites indicative of?
Look, so a pegmatite is basically a child of a granite. So the granite is the big major geological unit that holds the original lithium in its magma, and then as the granite magma is cooling, the offspring from it, the pegmatites, start forming in the late stages of its crystallization, and then that's when you typically get the lithium to drop out in a particular, like once the conditions are right chemically and the pressure and temperature are right, that's when you get your economic LCT deposits. And the fact that we've got such a huge frequency of pegmatites, we've just got that higher probability of potentially some of them are actually mineralized. We don't have our assays back yet from our maiden campaign, but even if the assays aren't great from this maiden campaign, we've still got several hundred more targets to test, and we're only scratching the surface. Our maiden campaign only went vertically down about 30 meters from surface. And the guys up the road at Delta, their best kind of hits are at least 100 meters vertical depth below surface. So, yeah, it's early days for us.
So why do that then? If you're able to kind of reference, I kind of not necessarily always a big fan of the kind of neurology argument, but if you've seen what they've done to kind of create success, why have you said, well, we'll kind of come at this with 30-meter drill versus going deeper at this point in time?
There's a couple of reasons. So the first reason is that we want to understand our pegmatites in the same orientation as theirs. So we want to understand how they behave below surface, the dip and the strike, etc., below surface. So that's one factor. So we're using the drill bit as an exploration tool. The second factor is that access. So if we wanted to get into the best parts of our system, it would have taken us a lot longer in terms of our program of work applications. So we would have had to clear significant tracks, which would have delayed our POW applications by several months perhaps, and we could have been 6 to 9 months without any news flow. So we decided to go for the low-hanging fruit, get some data, get some early news flow, and that's what we did. And that's caused our recent share price appreciation, because we've proven now that the pegmatites, they look small at surface. They might look like a little 1 meter by 1 meter blob at surface, but now we've seen that these things have huge scale. We've hit like 68 meters or 58 meters of continuous pegmatite from surface, and we've not hit the boundary of it yet. So these are huge pegmatites, and if any of them are mineralized, that's a serious amount of tons. And we've got 300 of them left to test.
Right, and does that answer the?
So it was all about news flow, and geological information, basically.
Right. Okay. Again, we always talk about that balance between managing the market and actually doing what you want to do in terms of the geology. You've got to do things the right way, but at the same time, you've got to give the market news. So I get that tension there.
And I should point out as well, Matt, that so we collected, like, basically since listing, we were collecting rock chips, and during the worst part of the summer system up there. And basically the rock chips were telling us that there is an LCT element, like we're getting 1,000 ppm lithium at surface. So it's definitely an LCT pegmatite.
Right.
And typically lithium weathers, and you should get, in theory, better grades at depth. And therefore, we weren't just drilling barren pegmatites. We knew that there was an LCT element to the rocks. So yeah, we're not just cowboys and just putting a hole where just randomly, basically.
You're not wildcatting. Okay. Well, that maybe answers the next question, which is around, because obviously people, they I think have been programmed to appreciate that spodumene is where the economics start kicking in. You've gone straight into a kind of phase 2 drill program without the assays back from phase 1. Why? Essentially,
the two reasons. First is because we haven't got the context. We don't know the full extent of these pegmatites. So they're basically open at depth, and typically the most prospective part of the the mineral system is likely to where your contact of the pegmatite is with the granite beneath. So that's likely where the best assay is going to be in your pegmatite, where it meets that contact point. So we're trying to find that point now with a deeper campaign, and it'll also give us some. It just defines how wide is this, like 58-meter unit from surface. How wide is the actual pegmatite system that we're looking at just for that particular target, for example? And we've already undertaken some XRD mineralogy tests to check like what's causing this lithium anomalism. Is it spodumene, or is it lepidolite, or is it some other lithium mineral? But we do know that there is lithium in the system. We've got the 1,000 ppm at surface at a couple of targets, and the XRD results we're hoping to have in about 2 weeks as well before the assays. But look, we had enough confidence that if you looked at the history of the original discovery called Malinda, where these guys at Delta are drilling, they drilled several drill holes like us at the start, and their best assays, some of the holes were not mineralized at all and they might get a sniff at least 150 meters below. So we wanted to make sure that this modest and maiden campaign had the best chance of getting some actual mineralization, even though we know we're nowhere near in the best part of the system yet.
Well, that begs the question: is if you're not, so when you say, you mean below ground, not necessarily in terms of where you're drilling, but you're talking about.
Yeah, but both actually, because basically it is all about this access. So when we know that the most prospective area is in a particular geological unit called the Leak Spring Metamorphics. It's basically a metamorphic rock that's beside the granite, and it does contain pegmatites. But to get in there on our tenure, we would basically need to clear tracks, and to do that, we will need to do a serious heritage survey, native title heritage survey, and the POW is likely to take much longer. So rather than wait 6 months, we decided to get enough information now so that we can be even more laser focused in these subsequent campaigns, because now we know which way these things are dipping and striking.
Okay, understood. And let's come back to your conversation about with confidence to move to phase 2, because it's really important, because unfortunately for you, the market is littered with people who have confidence but not necessarily grounded in intelligence, data, or otherwise. It's a case of trying to look busy. So the confidence for phase 2, is it kind of is it a proper phase 2, or is it phase 1 and A and B? I'm trying to work it out.
Yeah, it's phase A and B, basically.
Right. Okay. So that's kind of cool. So what does the rest of this year look like in terms of that drill program, assays coming out, and the kind of data that you would hope to be able to present to market? What would good look like in the near future?
So yeah, just on the lithium project, T3. So the next stage for us, so we'll complete this. We've got a 3,000 meter campaign, and we will drill all of our several targets that we have now. Some of them not the targets from phase 1, but the new ones basically. And then also in the meantime do lots of geophysical surveys like magnetics, radiometrics, and also we're looking at gravity as well as a survey that hasn't been tested in the area before, but the Canadians are using it to quite really good effect. And we'll also do an extensive soil sampling campaign, and soil sampling seems to be a really a good prospect for generating your good targets, because you don't look for lithium in soil, you look for the pathfinders. So that survey plus the geophysics, they'll give us our next phase 2 level of targets for the next campaign, and that should take us to the end of the year. And we'll just basically keep trying to build these targets up on our value pyramid, so that we're at, say, priority 3 targets now. We'll get to priority 2 and then eventually priority 1 targets, basically.
Okay.
And then we've also got this rare earth story as well.
Well, no, I want to come to that. Don't worry. There's a plan to this interview. We're professionals here. So just one before we finish off on the lithium component. So was it John Hannaford that had the connection with Core Lithium?
Yeah, he was one of the corporate advisors for the original listing.
Right. Okay. But not involved in the operation per se.
No, he wasn't.
No, okay, gotcha. Okay, fine. Okay, so let's come on to the rare earths, Paddy's Well rare earths project. Now, lithium is a complex metal, but rare earths even more so and even less understood. So again, how much time, money, etc., are you allocating to this as a percentage of your budget?
I suppose let me set the scene. So look, I've got quite a long history in rare earths. One of my first jobs when I came to Australia was commissioning at the Mount Weld concentrator back in 2010, I think it was, and a lot along the way, been back there for various times to look at different things, and then also more recently working on the Yangibana rare earth project, which is probably the Gascoigne region where we are. That's the main, most advanced project. This Hastings Technology Metals there, they've got the Yangibana rare earth project. It's kind of unique because it's got this very enriched neodymium praseodymium component, and if you looked at just TREO, the head grade on TREO might seem quite low at 1% compared to, say, the world-class Mount Weld, which is like 8%. But the concentrate that Yangibana produces is so much cleaner and higher in NdPr than Mount Weld that's why it's got such a high prospects for really low OPEX, and should be very profitable. So it's got a very clean concentrate. The metallurgy is really nice. I was part of a lot of the test work for that project, and also the flow sheet selections, and also helping them with the export credit finance. So I know a lot about the project. So the Gascoigne seems to have some unique metallurgy in terms of the rare earths that are there. There's also a very good company called Dreadnought Resources. They've had major success with rare earths in this region over the last 2 years. They're one of the best performing stocks on the ASX because of that Mangaroon rare earth project, which is up near us as well. So basically, we knew that we're in a really good area for rare earth elements. Claudio, he's a very seasoned rare earth guy. He's been about over 20 years now in rare earths exploration. And when myself and him were first on ground back in October, we basically grew that project over 450% because of the prospectivity we're seeing on ground. And basically the mapping that's done by the GSWA, the local government, is not fully correct. There's lots of deep tapping structures that we saw outcropping that were mapped as deep cover. So we grabbed as much extra ground as we could because of the prospectivity. And we've already done our first drill program. It was a shallow clay focused program. Basically, Cameco about 30 years ago were up sniffing around the area and looking for uranium, and we got some of that old data, and they found some quite anomalous wide zones of rare earths. We basically twinned that and got even better results, and we've now got, say, a huge clay system identified, like 80 meters of continuous clay hosted mineralization from surface. And we basically could drill that for the next 5 years and get 100 million tons. It's like there's at least 6 kilometers by 2 kilometers of anomalism at surface in these clays. But we've decided to get straight onto the metallurgy and to see, is there any point in chasing these clays further to basically determine, is there an ionic component to the clays, meaning will they leach in basically a fertilizer solution of ammonium sulfate at pH 4. And if they don't, if there's not like at least 40% of the material that will recover in those conditions, then we will basically stop chasing clays and only focus on the primary hard rock rare earth targets. So that's basically a prudent use of capital in our view.
Well, okay, you explained some of the kind of commercial imperatives there as well. Because if using your example of Dreadnought Resources, they've given back everything that they gained, from 12 months ago. They're back down around 5 cent level again, because it's a complicated market. It's a very little understood thing in terms of investors as well. So you sound like you're very aware of that, and you don't necessarily want to destroy value or to waste money. So you're going after some very specific data to allow you to make those decisions to move on. What time frame are you giving yourself in terms of making that decision? Because I worry that kind of investors get confused about whether it's a lithium story, rare earth story, or gold story, cobalt story, etc. So give us a sense of how you're thinking about it.
We should have the metallurgical results in the next at least 4 weeks. We hope, and basically, if they're not favorable, we will cease all work on the clays, but still we've got several primary targets as well, what are called carbonatite primary targets, where you've got basically a magnetic high anomaly with a weak thorium anomaly that are coincident. And we've got several of those to follow up. And I think what will happen in this area most likely is, so you've got Hastings have about 30 million tons, Dreadnought have, I think, about 14 at the moment, and they're aiming for about 50. It's, in my opinion, it's very likely that some much bigger player will put the whole lot together and, combine the whole lot. There's already like big iron ore billionaires sniffing around, and they've already invested quite significantly in the Hastings project. So I think, and there's also Iluka resources there, mineral sands, but they're building a refinery about 200 kilometers to the west. So it's very likely that someone like Iluka, you would produce a concentrate from any of these projects and then just sell that to Iluka, who will then turn it into a separated oxide. That's the most logical thing, I think. If the government can get their act together and actually, support some downstream processing here. But yeah, I think the area is shaping up like it's. Iluka already know that it's got some really attractive rare earths here. They're really clean. The metallurgy is really nice, and there could be 100 million tons resource between both clays and hard rock. So it does have some serious like global significance. And I think the long game is waiting for someone like that to take all of these companies out who have actual resources.
As you say, someone with the balance sheet to do that, but also the technical know-how, because it's a very technical sector as well. Most people kind of have deference to the Chinese input there and the significance of the capital they bring, but also conscious of what's going on with regards to that kind of east-west divide when it comes to rare earths at the moment. Okay, Michael, look, I appreciate kind of running through the assets there. I mean, how are you finding the markets at the moment? Obviously, your share price doesn't seem to mind, but it's pretty tough out there.
It is definitely a tough market. It's quite schizophrenic, really. One day it's elation, and the next day it's down in the doldrums. And seems as if when the US sneezes, that we kind of catch a cold here. But I think there is still a lot of froth in lithium, and I think there's quite a lot of interest from the majors in some of the projects where we are, and there's already been buying on market by some of the big billionaires into Delta. So that's a kind of a strong signal that supply is short. And even though I know all the downstream is done now in China, but there are some refineries coming on here in Western Australia. They haven't really published any production data yet, but they will soon hopefully be up and running here with 2 separate hydroxide plants. So I think there is scope to like de-Chinify your supply chain here if the US really wants to pal you with Australia. So and I think that's why there is so much interest in securing actual raw materials. And even though like the spodumene and all the prices have come back quite a bit, they do seem to have bottomed, and there is a bit of a rebound as well coming. So
well, yes, I mean it's come off across the board. I think in terms of the metals price, but the demand numbers don't seem to have changed too much, if anything.
No,
well, certainly not negatively.
And lithium does seem to be the one. The like LFP now seems to be the most dominant chemistry in China, and lithium you can't basically get rid of it if you want that really nice charge times and cycle times. So I know sodium ion is touted to be the next best thing, but it's probably only going to be good for storage, energy storage.
Yeah, well, I guess that's when you'll whip out your vanadium project. Michael, I really lovely to hear a story about the projects, how you're coming about, and obviously be introduced to the team. So when can we expect the assays coming out?
So we hope in about 3 weeks' time. And even before that, we might have some XRD, some mineralogy before that, if the labs can produce that in time as well. So hopefully identifying whatever lithium mineral is causing the anomalism.